Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Twin Peaks Community Showcase. I'm Jeremiah from Take the Ring, and Cameron jumped on early and we started talking, so I'm just going to leave him on. Normally, I was just going to be like, check out my Patreon, check out my new video on YouTube. I can get to that later, so no big deal.
Check out his Patreon. You're already on his YouTube, so make sure you're
Yeah,
subscribed.
you know what I realized? I don't know. I went out of my way when I started my channel to not do the whole like and subscribe and like, spoiler alert, man, I got a super nasty comment the other day, like on my new video, like, thanks for spoiling all these random films, you blankety blanky just like us. Like YouTube held it, right? I found it in the like held for review comments, and I was like, dang. And I did put like,
you're gonna have to put a little tag at the front saying the following films will be discussed.
yeah, I'm like, I almost went ahead and published his comment and replied to him. I'm really sorry I spoiled The Wizard of Oz, you jackass, right? Like, movie's been out for 100 years, dude. Sorry. Lost Highway's been out for 30 years, dude. Sorry. Like, I don't know, whatever. Anyway,
can we just real quick? Can we just say, Lost Highway, Inland Empire, 4K Criterions? They haven't been officially confirmed, but we know they're coming. Because I got word in 2012 from a representative at Criterion saying their intent was to release all the Lynch films on Blu-ray. Now it's 4K. So it is coming. The big one they're going to try and get, obviously, is The Straight Story. But because how are you going to maneuver Disney to work with Criterion?
Yeah, totally.
So I'm really looking forward to that, because Lost Highway, they need Pretty as a Picture, upgraded HD on disc 2, and we need at least those hour deleted scenes, which we know Lynch is now all for releasing now, right? So I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm super stoked about that. And I've probably seen Pretty as a Picture more than any other like Lynch like side thing,
right?
Because I bought the DVD when it came out, and I've used some clips of that in some of my videos. But yeah, there's the whole parking lot scene, that's like
with the spraying water and stuff.
Right. What was the story? They said that it rained and everything got wet, and then they had to shoot and they didn't know what to do. And David's like, just get some guys out there with some playing with the hoses, so everything will be wet. No one will notice.
And that to me is one, it's a genius of a filmmaker like David Lynch, but also it's like, that's what a filmmaker does, folks. Sometimes some of the weird random things that you think David Lynch does because, they're not in the script. And they're not in the script because, one, he didn't think about it, and two, he didn't know what the day was going to give him that day. Like, for instance, in Fire Walk with Me, when Ray Wise is walking away from the hotel after seeing Laura and Ronette, and the little boy jumps out, right? And starts doing the little circle with the black dog. That's not in the script. And it's not in the script because Ray Wise quickly turns his head like, what the hell? And then keeps walking. Like,
yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. So I got some, sorry, I screwed up your introduction because we were, whatever. It's that kind of day. But so Cameron's a friend of this channel. He's been on a ton of times. I've been on his show a ton of times, actually more than he's been on here. But I have a On the Web playlist on my front of my YouTube channel right now. It's called On the Web, and there is links to at least 3 or 4 videos that I am on his channel, and there's solid like 4 to 6 hours probably split about 2 or 3 videos of us just kind of going at it, all things Twin Peaks. So check that stuff out. Go to my playlist and it links to his videos. And but I'm bringing him on again. He was on the last community showcase. He just dropped Act 4 of his Twin Peaks fan film called Queen of Hearts, and he's here to talk about it. So,
well, when did we do the last show? I mean, was Act 1 released then? I can't remember.
Oh yeah, no. I want to say the first 2, at least maybe 3.
Okay.
Maybe 3 were out.
All right. So Act 4 came out last week. And yeah, so let's discuss it. If you haven't seen it, there's going to be spoilers, I'm sure. So just hang in there.
Yeah, I wrote some notes and I kept it vague, not completely spoiler free, but kept it vague. So go for. Actually, I'll just ask you some of my quick thoughts.
Well,
So
let people know who haven't seen it.
Go ahead.
So the movie is split into 5 acts. It will be released as one big film as it was originally conceived. But if you don't know what it is, it's basically following 2 stories. One, it's the story of Annie Blackburn post season 2, and it also is telling the story of Cooper, Wyndham Earle, and Caroline back in the past. So
yeah, excellent. And Act 1 came out. This is Act 1, 2, and 3 was like before Christmas, and then this last act is kind of effects heavy, so it took a little bit extra time. Am I correct?
That is correct. Same thing with Act 5.
So. Yeah. No, but it's cool. I like it because it's kind of building anticipation. My notes here, I was like, well, without giving too much away, this is where those 2 aforementioned stories begin to converge. And this was my kind of favorite part of the script. And seeing it all come together has been pretty awesome.
So you read the script. People don't know that you read the script prior. You try to talk me out of it. You try to make me do it like a condensed version of it. I'm really glad I didn't, because I think it's really cool. And it's really interesting because I put up a poll saying, which actor is your favorite? And it literally is going 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, so people are really digging it more and more, like, as it goes on, which is fantastic because you want a movie to get better as it goes on, not worse.
Yeah, I took that poll, and this is definitely my favorite.
But your favorite prior to this was 2, right? Because it dealt with the whole backstory with Cooper and Caroline.
Yeah. I would agree. Yeah, that's correct.
Well, Richard Austin, who he has a blog, he put up a nice review of Act 4, and basically what he said is what we knew we had to do. If we didn't nail the lodge, spoilers, the Black Lodge is in Act 4. If we didn't nail the lodge, this whole thing is done. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can take little, you can cut corners every which way if you had to, but if you don't get the necessity right, like, you've spoiled, you've ruined the whole illusion of the whole thing. So
yeah, I agree. I think you nailed it. I love, again, I don't want to spoil too much, but
go ahead.
She's peeking in and out of the curtains. And I think you mentioned this on one of your shows the other day, but I'm okay with the nuns, dude. I'm okay with it.
Well, that was in the script. It was in the script.
Yeah.
And my feeling is, if David Lynch is going to bring in Christian symbology like the angel into Fire Walk with Me, we can bring in nuns.
Yeah, no, and it totally fits. So let's
Annie's
just say
story too, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, so it's Annie's story, and basically the Black Lodge is messing with her the same way. It actually reminds me of Jennifer Connelly in Labyrinth.
Okay,
you remember that distraction scene where she goes in this, she eats the peach, right? And it goes into the hallucination thing. Kind of reminded me of that. Again, she's like the tree, the Jackrabbit's Palace, and then that's whatever.
Well, the intent is that she's in the Black Lodge at this point, and we do it's not quite a flashback because she's reliving it. It's, it's basically the worst day of Annie Blackburn's life. And what it is that she's so powerful, the lodge cannot hurt her. It cannot kill her. So it's going to make her relive the worst day of her life. So she kills herself. And then, so it's kind of like, it's a redo, but it's also a flashback. It's kind of,
Yeah. That's what I like. Not only do the Cooper, Caroline, and the Annie stories converge,
right?
Which again, like that's super important and write, and that's, in my opinion, the best part of the script, because the you know, the Black, you all know the Black Lodge isn't even really in Twin Peaks that much, right? But what the main point of the Black Lodge, especially after the return, is like literally time and space like does not matter.
Sure.
Like someone could walk into the Black Lodge from 200 years ago and meet somebody that walked into the Black Lodge 200 years from now,
and every person
that's
will have a different experience.
Right. But those people can also meet.
Right.
And you don't know how they're going to perceive that other person.
Sure.
Or place or thing or whatever.
Right.
So I also, you guys, you want to tell them no, real quick before I forget, who is the guy? I'm sorry, dude. I even subscribed to your channel. There's a guy that does these great movie reviews. He just reviewed Act 4, and like eating donuts.
Oh, Sofia Marco.
Yes, that show is great. That dude's review is great, and he brought up a good point. What did he say? Oh, he said, and I agree with. He said that he liked that you began the episode without talking. Did you watch his review? He made a comment about
it was a recap of Act 3, though. I mean, it was the ending. It was the last two scenes of Act 3 that I just replayed. But yeah. But he's talking about Caroline coming down the stairs and I think.
Oh, you're right. That was at the end of 3. Well, whatever. I agree with what he's saying, that you don't have every scene crammed with dialogue, and that's good. I think a lot of people sometimes, and even big budget movies, it's like it's just people talking the whole time. It's like, man, like let things breathe a little bit. Like, you know, let's get to, you can get to know a character, you can understand what's going on without people having to talk all the time.
Well, that's where David Lynch's work comes in. It's about balance. I mean, there are scenes in David Lynch's work. I mean, a lot of people think he's just purely visual, which is not true at all. He's very auditory as well. If you watch the pilot of Twin Peaks, the original series, obviously, it has. I mean, there is more talking in that than probably all of season 3.
Oh yeah, I think there's more music in 1 hour-long episode of season 1 than there is in season 2. There's some episodes where it's like literally every scene for a whole hour is loud blasting Angelo music. Mm-hmm. And then you watch The Return and it's like, it feels like there's 3 hours in between each song.
So
it feels that way.
Let me tell you something I noticed in editing, and I'm sure you've noticed this in editing too. And this is no diss whatsoever to any member of my cast. They're a wonderful group and they acted their tails off in my film. But if they gave me 100%, when you underscore their performance with the Badalamenti music instrumental, it raises it 110%. That music is, I would say, is as great as Twin Peaks is in the writing and the acting department of the show. Without Badalamenti's score, Twin Peaks is not Twin Peaks. I mean, I love season 3 for what it is. Don't get me wrong, but that you take the music out of season 1, try watching it. It's not nearly going to be as powerful without the Laura music and things like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can make I hate to make the general statement that that's true in all films, because I mean, obviously like things are going to be weird without the music, but there's a ton of music or ton of films that like the music's not memorable at all. It could literally be any kind of temp score in there, you know. But Angelo's like, he's like the John Williams of like whatever avant-garde film or Lynchian film. Because when Spielberg started winning awards and Jaws was doing so well, the quote I think was 60% of this is all John Williams.
Well, absolutely,
it's like 60% of the credit of this film.
Well, they couldn't film the shark, right? So the music had to be the shark. Yeah, and Badalamenti, just real quick, he did Blue Velvet and Nightmare on Elm Street 3 in the same year. Okay, and those two scores are couldn't be more opposite, but more perfect for for those films.
Mhm.
And in Queen of Hearts, I have a lot of Bad Lamenti music, but I also have a lot of pop tunes. And that's because one, we're not in Twin Peaks for the entire of the film. We're in Pittsburgh. And I wanted to kind of do Wyndham Earle's record collection. So it bounces back and forth between pop tunes. And that was in the script too. That wasn't a post-production thing.
Oh, you didn't have any of that stuff. How much of the music did you have in mind? The pop songs, like the popular
99%.
Oh, while writing it?
Yeah, it was in the script. All those songs.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that. Oh, sorry.
Cooper and Wyndham Earle playing chess to Whiter Shade of Pale. It's just kind of cool.
Oh yeah. Okay, so speaking of that, what I was alluding to earlier, so tell everyone why everyone in Australia is banned from watching your movie.
Well, it's not. Well, it's just Act 4.
No, I know.
All the music has cleared and everything's wonderful except one track, which is Thompson Twins. Australia, New Zealand, and the island of Tonga have to get a VPN to be able to watch Act 4. And I'm going to assume that's going to be the same case when the whole film is one. However, I've been thinking of alternatives so that I can maybe release an Australia cut. Because that song was one of the ones that was not in the script. And that came about because the way we were going to shoot that scene ended up being different than the way we had it intended to shoot it because of the location. And so it needed a kind of a big kind of, pow to it. Because it was originally going to be, because Andy walks through the drapes and it was going to be this teenager's room with like bop and teen beat stuff and just really 1980s stuff. And it was going to, have a ticking, you'd hear the ticking clock and her looking around the room. There'd be so much stuff to look at. Unfortunately, the location we had, we couldn't do all that stuff to her. They wouldn't let us. So there wasn't a lot for her to look at that we could really embrace that clock thing. So it was like, well, what are we going to do that's going to give you the same sort of wow factor that she's now in this other environment? I know, let's throw in Thompson Twins and and it's kind of cool because a lot of people, even Joey, who's in the chat, wrote to me while he was watching. He's like, Thompson Twins and the Black Watch. And I said, but it works. It does work.
Yeah, I agree. I heard the music coming in and I was like, oh, okay. All right. I was going to ask you, I didn't want to put you on the spot, but I was going to ask you about the, if you were going to come up with an alternative maybe for the final cut or whatever.
I probably won't change it for the final cut, but I might do a different an Act 4 or a different, yeah, just so that people can see it, at least some aspect of it.
Oh yeah, like I gotcha.
Or I could upload the whole thing to Vimeo or another site too, and people can see
that's what I was thinking. Yeah, totally. I was gonna, let's see here. Nope, that's me. I'm too big. Nope, that's not right. There we go. So for
now, originally we were not going to release it in acts. We were going to just release it as one film, but it was taking forever and a day to do it. And I wanted to make the 2021 kind of date that I'd set up for myself. And I thought, let's just cut it up. And at first, myself and the producer were going back and forth, like, I don't know, because the whole film builds. And so it's like, can we really do this? I am glad we did because I think it's fun to watch it in episodes.
Yeah, I agree. For just real quick while I've got this up. So you created your own channel for this.
Right.
So this is the Andy Blackburn channel. So you guys need to search this out and I will link in the description like last time. So let's talk about, I think I know what you're going to say, but do you, what was your biggest challenge with this one?
With Act 4?
Yeah.
It was the lodge. Well, I mean, we shot it, but the thing is that we could not find a red velvet drapes. We could only find black and gray velvet drapes. So we had to go in and color correct every frame to make it red.
Oh man, I forgot about that. You're right. Oh man, that's crazy. I forgot about that. You did
Frame,
tell me that. And yeah, so is
frame by
that
frame.
holy smokes.
So 9.5 minutes of Black Lodge.
Yeah. That's right. No, you told me when you had finished shooting it that you had to color correct all the curtains. Oh man, you can't even tell.
Oh no, well that's good.
No,
So
that is good.
So Dethroner X says, couldn't you find the strobe light? We did use a strobe light. We did use a strobe light, but we had to use some extra strobe lights because, again, we had to color correct the drapes. So we had to put a mat around Annie, and some of her hair, of course, right? Because you can't get into like every detail because again, this is a low budget production, folks. So it looked at times like she was green screened in, even though she was not green screened in. We shot the lodge the way you see it. So in order for it to not look like we green screened her in, we had to basically choose like, okay, we're going to have this section be strobe light. We're going to have this section be not, because it was easier to not mat her in quite so much in other shots. But I do think there is a consistency to it. So it's not like, strobe light, regular shot, strobe light, regular shot. It was like regular shot, strobe light section. so I mean, like originally intended, there wasn't going to be that much strobe light. So we shot strobe light where we were going to do it. But then we ended up having to do a little bit more, which is fine. I mean, I'm very happy with the way it looks. So,
And maybe do you want to talk about the Jackrabbit's Palace?
Sure. So that scene we shot 3 times at Jackrabbit's Palace, and one of the actresses quit right after we shot the scene. You remember that, and and then we went up there with a second actress who just wasn't feeling it, and we weren't feeling her performance, so we made a change, and then Maddie stepped in, and then we shot it with her. So, and it was just me and her in the woods shooting that scene. But yeah, so that scene, even though it lasts, I don't know, 2 minutes, was literally a make or break scene for the actors who wanted to play Annie. And I was kind of dumbfounded by that. But Maddie was saying to me, like, well, it's really hard because, you're basically screaming at the sky, and, it's kind of a Bergman-esque moment there. And also it's very physical. I mean, you're running. I mean, she's in the high heel shoes. She's running through the woods. And at one point, if you see, it's in the film where Maddie, books it around Jackrabbit's Palace and then falls to the ground, and you see her head just slam on the ground. I mean, that's all real. And then she gets up and, and then she's crawling. And, of course, the idea in season 3 is that you put a little dirt in your pocket. Well, she doesn't have any pockets. So she, like Fire Walk with Me, a little dirt under the fingernails as she's clawing the dirt, and then she's screaming at the White Lodge, like, are you going to take me or not? And then off she goes. So.
And did, I forget, who did she do the makeup for?
Herself?
And no, the black and white sequence. I don't want to spoil that either, but
no, she didn't do. We had the woman who plays Señorita Dido. She had her own makeup artist.
Oh, cool.
And I honestly thought, well, this is what I'm kind of looking for. And her makeup artist was like, yeah, sure. And then she about an hour later, it was time to shoot that scene. I come around the corner. She's like, what do you think of this? And I literally, my mouth dropped. I was like, holy, like, I did not expect it to look that good because she looks like her.
So I'm going to share your Instagram page if that's cool. You guys should check him out on Instagram. He's been sharing
also on Twitter as well.
Behind the scenes. Yeah, Instagram and Twitter. But if you can see,
and there is a private Facebook page too that you guys can go to. I was going to make it public once the film came out, but Facebook won't let me change the settings now. They said privacy page is a privacy page. So.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
But so we got Annie or Maddie and
if you click on it,
Dido.
If you click on it, I probably should.
Oh, actually, yeah. Sorry, I'm still getting used to this stupid thing. Instagram. There we go. I have to click off of there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So we definitely did a Evil Dead 2 type of thing here, because I originally wanted to shoot. We have a huge movie theater here, and I wanted to shoot the White Lodge in that place. Unfortunately, it was like we couldn't get it reserved, so we ended up doing the entire White Lodge in basically a high school gymnasium with lots of green screens. So,
do those numbers have any significance?
No, it's the number of the house.
Okay, that's no. I was gonna say, well, hey, it's the kind of classic Gothic telephone pole number,
Sure,
kind of look to it, and I was like, I wonder if they.
And before anybody gets on my case, I just want you to know that we did look into getting classic cars, and unfortunately, it just wasn't going to work out with our timing. So we had to scale back the cars from the script and only use them when they were absolutely necessary. So occasionally, you will see as a modern car, but we did try to shoot around as much as possible. So,
yeah, I love this shot too. So Mickey Burning 111 says, yes, how did you find that place?
Which place?
I think this popped up when you were talking about the Black Lodge, but then we went right into Jackrabbit's Palace. So I guess how did you find the Black Lodge? Like, how did that come together, if you're willing to talk about that?
we ended up shooting that on a play stage, actually, because if you think of a playhouse, you have the one drape, and then there's the second drape, that comes in the front, right? And so like one drape comes out, then one drape pulls out. So if you look at it that way, from inside that square, right, the two drapes together create the hallway, and then we pulled back the second drape and then had the room. The big issue was that we didn't have enough flooring, so every time we moved the camera, we had to adjust the floor, which took a lot longer. We thought we had enough, but then when we got in there, we realized, oh no, we don't have enough. And so that became a painstaking thing of just like, okay, we're moving this direction, floor moves too.
Mickey Burning says he's asking about Jackrabbit's Palace.
Well, watch Take the Rings 3 Days in Twin Peaks. You'll know exactly where it is.
Yeah. So it's
sort of the mecca of the Twin Peaks locations. There's so many locations in that one little square. That's my favorite. That's not my favorite area of all, visiting up there, that whole woodsy area.
Yeah. It's the real deal. You can go visit there. It's about deteriorated though.
Well, that was another issue. Every time we went up there to shoot it, the tree was more and more gone. So
yeah, so Mickey Burning, it's the original, it's the same spot that Lynch shot.
But here's
Twin Peaks season 3.
But here's the thing. We got to the tree just before it's gone. So one of the things that I think is really cool about Queen of Hearts is the fact that some of these locations, like the road where Cooper drives into or Jackrabbit's Palace, this is the last time you will ever see those locations in a film as they are shown from the original show or the return.
Yeah. So people, Piney Realm, some other guys were just up there for Twin Peaks Day, and it's that the spire is starting to.
Oh, it's gone.
It's basically a rotten stump.
Right.
Like it's a giant tree stump, basically. That it's cool in the return. It looks kind of like it's petrified. Like it looks like really solid. But when I went there, and you too, like when it's raining and snowing, like, oh no, this is going to rot and deteriorate.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think fans destroyed it. I think the weather just really got to
it. Oh yeah. No, I think people, and I see tons and tons and tons of people post pictures there, and I don't think if people were breaking pieces off of it and stuff, like I don't think that's happening, because it'd be in way worse shape. I'm actually surprised how much of it is still left. But so let's see.
We only have a few more minutes, so I want you to throw out so Act 4 is your favorite, and so that's really cool. And I don't have a date yet for Act 5, but It really means a lot. I just want to say it really means a lot that you are talking about the film and getting awareness out there. Yeah, because we all worked very, very hard on it. And I think if you watch the film, you can see that. This doesn't look like, we just casually shot this in our kitchen. So.
Yeah. Dethroner's got another question. Let's pop that up there. Oh, yeah. Having sycamore trees in the lodge, and then, and it ties back into, that was in the first act, right?
The first act, when Major Braize goes to visit her, and she talks about the haunting music, which, if you think about, she's already in the lodge when Cooper walks in there, so she would have heard that echoing.
Oh, right. See, that's where it's cool, because you're playing with the timeline again, because it's like, I'm like, oh yeah, she was in the lodge at the end of season 2, so now this is its own thing. And man, there's something else I want to say, but I don't want to ruin it either. But basically, she runs into Cooper again, and that's pretty awesome. I like that moment a lot.
Well, because spoilers for Fire Walk with Me, she has to know, right, that the good Cooper's in the lodge.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, totally. Vinyl Score says he really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
What Mickey Burning says, the actress who plays Annie singing the song in the trailer.
No, that's the Mamas and the Papas.
Oh, interesting.
When they talk about sycamore trees and all that in the song, Dream a Little Dream.
This guy says, a mushroom hunter, I've seen trees break down quickly, sometimes 3 years, and they're gone. So it's super cool. You got to grab it before it completely goes away.
Well, I gotta tell you, I mean, because you've been up there and you shot in that area before, and it would have been one thing to just shoot a scene with Annie at Jaguar's Palace, but the fact that she had to be completely bruised up and completely bloody, it was like, how are we going to get this past the Rangers? And we were there 5 hours shooting that scene, and we never saw one person, Ranger or pedestrian, come by. It was amazing. We had the whole forest to ourselves. It was beautiful.
Interesting. Yeah. So people that don't know, it's not like, it's basically a state park, and it's, other than the ranger, there's a marshal or a ranger that's there, that there's a cabin there. Mm-hmm. And that's maybe 200 or 300 yards away. Other than that, there's nothing out there. You have to bring all your own. The film crew had to bring probably their own generators and lights, and to get, I mean, maybe just.
But again, there were so many locations filmed in that area that it was cost effective to do that.
Oh yeah. So people that don't know, that they shot here, and then they turned around and shot Jerry Horn running in the field, and then they turned over here and shot NATO coming out of the portal. But okay, so where can people find you? I was going to pop this. This is your regular YouTube channel.
Yes, I haven't posted on here for a little bit, but yes, Obnoxious Anonymous, and that's our regular channel. We're going to be up and running soon enough. I'm just trying to finish Queen of Hearts and kind of put my time into that. But like you said last time, and Twin Peaks will forever live in our hearts. That's why we're even talking about this now. But because there's really nothing happening out there in the Twin Peaks fan community except the fans, that we need to completely support each other's work and get it out there, because Take the Ring in my videos, maybe not the O&A videos because they're mostly talking head videos, but the Queen of Hearts, it shows just how much passion we have. We're not out making ER fan films, or ER tribute videos. We're doing this from the heart, and you can see from our videos and other people's videos out there as well, that if you're in the know and you get Twin Peaks and you get the world of David Lynch and Mark Frost, you get it. And those who don't.
All right. Hey, thanks a bunch for coming on. So we're gonna I don't know. I'm trying to do these monthly. We'll see how this goes. I will try to definitely have you on either after Act 5 or after you put up the whole thing, and we'll do a more in-depth kind of deep dive thing.
I would love to do one of our old school, you and me, and I even looked at
Yeah, and we need to pick like topics, like good deep dive topics, and that'll be good. It's been a long time, so
Absolutely. But it's been a real pleasure. So thank you very much.
always, man. Yep. Let me know. We'll talk.
All right. I'm going to exit out.
All right. Take care, dude.
All right. Bye.
All right, everybody. Next guest. Gonna bring him on. There he is.
All right.
Next,
how's it going?
good. Next guest is Marcus, also known as Pinland Empire, and he's the side-by-side champ of film Twitter. I have here in my notes. He's also co-host of Zebras in America podcast, and he is also a beat maker extraordinaire. And he let me use some of his music. You guys may, if you saw the Twin Peaks, the Palmer House, Mary Reber, and the Twin Peaks Palmer House video that I did, the intro and the outro music is all him, and he nicely let me use that. So I'm gonna start pulling up some of your Twitter page and stuff. But I guess I already introduced you. But anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I guess first and foremost, Pinland Empire is my film site. It's also just kind of the epicenter of all the other stuff I do as well. My podcasting, my film writing for other, outlets and websites. It's funny you mentioning Twitter, because I feel like with the popularity that I've gotten over Twitter over the years and my podcasting, it kind of takes away from PINNLANDEmpire.com, which, updated regularly. Just the other day, I put up a couple of things on the site looking at some of Maya Daren's work, and then I just recently saw Claire Denis' latest film, so I just put up a few words on that. So I'm constantly updating the site. We're on my 13th year. I just thought about this. I thought about that the other day. I was on the train going to work. I was like, wow, it's been 13 years that I've been doing this film blog. So
yeah, it's amazing, man. I pulled up the website, and
for those who don't know, this is the name of my website is obviously partially based on the work of David Lynch. It's so for those who didn't catch on, it's a combination of my last name and the film Inland Empire, which I love very much.
Yeah. I gotta admit, man, I'm a bit guilty of it as well. Like, you're the man on Twitter, and I've listened to Zebras a couple times, and then you contribute to Pink Smoke too, right?
Yeah, honestly, my John and Chris of the Pink Smoke, those are like two of my closest friends in real life, like off of Twitter.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
We go back like a lot longer, like in those are my real life friends. I know sometimes it's hard to differentiate who people know in real life versus on Twitter, but I've known John and Chris for a very long time. Almost since I first moved to New York City, after college, so around 2005-ish. Yeah, no. Yeah, I still enjoy doing the film site. I mean, I do a lot of comparisons, and for those of you who follow me on Twitter, if you go to my film site, there's a lot more comparisons that you don't even see on Twitter that you'll find on my on my film blog. So it's kind of it sucks kind of because at the moment, since December of 2020, my media on my main page has been shadow banned. So that's kind of a downer, although it's weird because I still get followers and people are still going to PINNLANDEmpire.com. But since December of 2020, if I post a video or a GIF or like a link or something, it doesn't get flagged. It just kind of gets this like warning sign for everyone. You just have to, it's like, adult content. I don't know why. It doesn't matter what it is, but
yeah,
yeah,
that's just crappy.
Yeah, I posted around like late November, beginning of December 2020. I posted a pretty graphic movie comparison between David Cronenberg and something else, and I guess someone either complained or reported it, and then that just kind of got me flagged. So, but at least I gotta say, at least my account didn't get taken down completely. Unfortunately, around throughout 2020, so many great Twitter accounts that aren't just Twitter accounts that are linked to things outside of Twitter, like a podcast or a website or a combination of the two got taken down. So, but I still post on my main Twitter account regularly. I also started with a buddy of mine. I started a kind of alt side by side based account called Hokuto Empire. It's just action based movie comparisons, and that's just a lot more fun. And
Oh
that
yeah.
hasn't gotten taken down yet or flagged. So yeah.
Oh man, I thought that was another, like, that's you.
It's me and another guy. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So I was gonna ask,
Yeah.
I want to kind of know, like, I see this, what's your kind of like a take on what's the philosophy behind the side by sides? I just want to preface, because like sometimes I'll see it and it drives me nuts. I'm sure it drives you nuts when people like comment or retweet and be like,
Sure.
These people don't, this didn't influence that, or like, oh, this shot happens in every action movie, or this whatever. And you're just like, hey man, it's not about that. Like, you're kind of missing the point. So I want you to maybe key my audience. And
yeah, sometimes I wake up on the wrong side of the bed and I just have an attitude and I get a little agitated. But I was on a podcast a couple years ago and I kind of broke it down into like 4 categories. So I think with side by side comparisons, so it's like broken down into fourths. So 25% of it is irrefutable, you can't disagree, and a lot of times it'll even come with a quote from a director saying, hey, this director influenced me, or this specific scene from this specific movie influenced this specific scene from my specific movie. So that's one part. The other part is I don't necessarily have anything to kind of corroborate that one influenced the other, but if you just read enough about film and study enough, it's like when you compare something from Abel Ferrara to Martin Scorsese, it's like, is that really a reach that Abel Ferrara would be,
right.
especially New York City Abel Ferrara would be influenced by Scorsese, and then the other 25% is more just kind of like, yeah, I highly doubt one filmmaker knows about the other, but regardless, we all have eyes. Well, we don't all have eyes, but the ones who can see, you can see that these scenes are similar. And then the final 25% is just like, I'm just kind of being silly. There is a similarity to these movies, but or to these scenes. But I know for a fact they have nothing to do with each other. I'm just kind of posting just to be a little, lighthearted. So, I always try to say, but at the end of the day, even if, oh, you can find these scenes, when people kind of, sometimes their criticism, oh, you could find these scenes in every movie, which isn't necessarily always even true. I don't know why people say that sometimes, but even if that's the case, sometimes that's also interesting to find. Like, for example, right now, what you have up on the screen, to find that, like, the work of Chantal Akerman has a lot of specific similarities to like this, comedic show, on Adult Swim, Joe Pera. And for those of you, I got Joe Pera himself co-signed this the specific these comparisons. So that's kind of that's been kind of the high. Oh, that was last year. That was kind of the highlight of last year, where Joe Pera saw these comparisons and he was a fan of those. So
yeah, that's amazing.
That kind of made my day.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but even for example, like, and another reason why I urge people to go to Twitter sometimes too is sometimes I don't always post a quote or kind of a piece of evidence to kind of prove that, hey, this influenced that. But if you go to Pinland Empire, I write more with the comparisons. And sometimes, you kind of need to be familiar with both things to fully get it. So if you're familiar with not just Jean Delmont, but all the films, not all, but most films of Chantal Akerman, she has a very kind of like dry, monotone, I'll even say, because this isn't always a bad thing, but like boring, I'm using air quotes, but like, and that's kind of the vibe of Joe Pera, like a lot of static shots, long takes, very, kind of boring, but boring in a good way. So I feel like if you've only seen one of these, or if you're not familiar with either, you'll just see it and be like, okay, it's just a woman serving a guy a plate of food. Like, what? Okay, blah, blah, blah. But if you're familiar with the tone of both things, it gets a little deeper. So that's all.
Yeah, man, I love it. And I mean, I'll be honest, like I'm not anywhere on the level of like film buff as you and some of your buddies, but like it's great for me because like I learn about all kinds of stuff. I'm like, oh, I know this movie, and he's comparing it to this movie, and like even if it's not something I never heard before, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. This is a director I need to go check out. Like
Sure,
I'm
that
not,
yeah, I love like that's the best part. Like this, there is kind of this really big, almost frat like film Twitter connection. Like even just now, like when you say, "Oh, that I'm this film buff," there's entire movie genres that I'm just like I know very little about. So even me, like there's movies, there's things that I learn, all the time, that I had no clue existed. And even, I've made real life friends off of folks from Twitter, over the years. So it's not as it can be frustrating sometimes, but it's also a positive thing.
yeah, totally. So would you say so what genre? Because I've seen you do uh
Sure, I have done all,
like
but I guess
European stuff. Like I've learned more about foreign films just from your Twitter account than like I
sure.
ever have in my whole life.
But even that,
So
it's kind of weird. Like foreign film is like that. That's not even a genre to me because like just anything other. Like there's so many countries. I
yes,
get
right, right,
it's
right.
almost like within
European,
France
I meant.
they
Yeah, yeah,
have
yeah.
their own genres in it. Within each country. But like I get like I'll say like Western is definitely like kind of a blind spot. Which I know my dad, he's rolling in his grave right now because he loved. Well, as he called them, cowboy movies, but and obviously I know the basics. You want to talk John Ford to Sergio Leone to all that stuff. But like the deeper cut films, I haven't seen too many. But uh,
Yeah.
I try to make time for that. But the other problem too is with my being such a cinephile and being a film fanatic, certain filmmakers that I love a lot, I just kind of, and this is, I think a lot of people do this. I just give a lot certain filmmakers more attention and kind of rewatch things and reread things and reanalyze things that that are familiar to me than giving a new person a chance. So I think that's something that I fall victim to, sometimes. David Lynch being one of them. David Lynch, he's one of my outside of just obviously naming my film site after him and whatnot. But yeah, he's one of my favorites.
Well, yeah, obviously, the obviously kind of like why you and I connected and one of the main reasons you're on the show. Yeah, totally. So we might as well just get into it. Like
Oh, this is cool. So I'm
uh
noticing the little disclaimer doesn't come up. So that's good. At least you see the stuff that I post. But for
oh
some
yeah,
people,
yeah.
yeah, some people when they pull up these gifs, they don't see it right away. They see, it's like warning adult content, click to view. Like I get that a lot. And I've been getting that since December 2020. So I've been
Man,
trying
that's
to I've been trying to appeal with Twitter, but at the same time, you find other ways to get creative. So that's part of the reason why I'm kind of going hard on my other kind of alternative account, the Hakuto Empire, which is just strictly based on action based side by sides. But I still post on Pinland Empire on my main. I just know it's not going to get the traction and attention that they did prior to me being shadow banned. But it is what it is.
yeah, man, that's such a drag. I posted some stuff once too, and it was like a trailer. It was just a little teaser for a video that I did,
Yeah.
and like I don't know, it had like Laura Palmer screaming in it, maybe, and like a flash of Bob. Like there was no nudity, no blood,
Right.
no
Right.
nothing, and it got like whatever. And I don't get why they do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But yeah, let's just get into I really want to know what I mean, it sounds like it's like a stupid question for like films because there's like every all kinds of movies are great and all kinds of directors are great. So
Yeah.
it's like silly to kind of zone in on one. But why do you like David Lynch so much? And if you can sum that up, like when did you first discover his work and what do you get out of him that you don't get out of other people, for example?
Sure. Well, I'll try to make this quick. I just remember, as a kid, without even knowing the name, I remember my mom used to watch Twin Peaks. And I can't stress enough, I'm not trying to sound like this old guy, but like even when I was a kid, when I was like 9 years old, when Twin Peaks, like those first two seasons, you really did have to be there for like what felt like a legit 15 minutes. It really did kind of have at least North America like in the palm of its hand. It really was kind of a phenomenon for for a short period of time. So much so, it even spawned like kind of like bootleg Twin Peaks type shows. Like what was the
Picket Fences. Remember
Picket
that
Fences?
one?
But there was another one though. Not
Oh
China.
yeah. Oh, Erie, Indiana.
No, not even Erie, Indiana. It was with Jim Belushi was on it. What's the name of that show?
Man, I don't
I
recall.
have to, but but yeah, it'll come to me. But either way, I just
Yeah, yeah.
remember my mother was like, oh, even my mom, she used to say like out loud, she's like, this show Twin Peaks, it's weird. I don't know why I watch it, but I do. And that kind of summed up a lot of America when that show first came out. And then I remember watching it, and I was like, yeah, this is weird. And then maybe a year or so after, when Wild at Heart was on cable, I remember this is so weird to think back, like I watched that movie with my parents, because it's just certain things like when you're like 10 or 11 watching the movie with your parents, it's
Yeah.
very weird. But then I remember that too, like this is weird. And again, even that, to be clear, I still wasn't conscious of who David Lynch was at that time. I didn't know that name. um I had seen Elephant Man, with my dad. And then when I was conscious, when I was finally like in high school, because remember that there was a big gap between Firewalk with me and Lost Highway. It was almost 5 years. So by the
Yeah.
time Lost Highway came out, I was I think I was a junior in high school. Um, and that was like the first I saw it in the theater, and I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. And these were the early days of the internet. So you could go and like there might be like one or two film sites dedicated to David Lynch. And I remember looking up, just like searching Lost Highway, David Lynch comes up, and then it's like I see Twin Peaks, I see Wild at Heart, I see Elephant Man. I'm like, oh, this is the same guy. Oh, okay. Um, and then from that moment on, I just love the fact that at that time too, like with stuff like YouTube and Vimeo and streaming, like there still weren't a whole lot of selections and choices like there are today. So I guess I appreciated that someone that like weird was kind of out in the mainstream, because as odd and surreal, whatever that people want to classify David Lynch as, he's still mainstream. He's his films, he's dipped his toe in the Academy Award nominated realm a few times. I mean, just to the fact that he's a character on the Cleveland show. You know what I mean? And he was on Louis C.K. show and all that stuff. So he is a kind of a pop cultural figure, and I just appreciated the fact that like this guy's weird movies, like you could just go to a regular movie theater and see something like Lost Highway. And then over the years, I read more, you learn about him, you learn about his pre-film years and how he was an artist. And it's strange too talking. It's ironic actually being on something talking about David Lynch, because the older I get, sometimes the less I want to talk about David Lynch, because in the internet era, it definitely accentuates this. But this was a thing in the 90s, 80s, that a lot of times people can't get past, oh, David Lynch's movies are weird. It's like, sure, I'm not going to be so pig-headed to be like, yeah, like there's things in David Lynch's films that make you go, what the hell is this? But at a certain point, there's so much more to the craft in his films. Like there's more to talk about outside of, oh my God, it's so weird, or Lynchian, which is like the new kind of overused
Yeah.
phrase. Like there's elements to the story of Mulholland Drive that are based on real kind of tragic events. There's things in Lost Highway that are based on true events. Eraserhead is a weird semi-autobiographical story. Even something like Twin Peaks, at its root, it's kind of about abuse and just all kinds of stuff. But but again, I get it. There is a quirkiness to Twin Peaks, and the older he gets, I think David Lynch kind of plays into like the caricature of himself. Like going back to what I said before, he himself is a
Absolutely.
character on the Cleveland show. But at the same time, I think there's a lot more to David Lynch's films than just like, oh, it's weird. I remember when Inland Empire was doing the rounds at the festivals and stuff. I saw Inland Empire 2 nights in a row at the New York Film Festival, and then I saw it a bunch of times at IFC. So during that time, I saw David Lynch speak 3 times,
Wow.
at Q&As, and each time, people were, so can you tell me what the film is about? And I could tell, I mean, it didn't make him upset, but he was a little agitated. But it's just kind of like Inland Empire, 3 hours of that, and the first thing you ask is like what it's about. It's like there's so much, and he would say, in a nice way, it's like the film was there, you just watched it. It's about whatever you saw. So yeah, I think there's a lot to dissect. Even he can be weirdly evasive sometimes, but even his love of other movies, when you find out the kind of few select movies that he's really open about loving, it makes sense when you go back and look at his, from specific Fellini films, specific Hitchcock films, specific Werner Herzog movies. It's kind of like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense that some of that stuff kind of influenced you. I mean, Maya Deren is just a no-brainer, and it's funny because unlike others, there's no kind of hard evidence, where David Lynch is like, yeah, I saw Meshes of the Afternoon and it made me want to be a filmmaker. But it's like if you watch Meshes of the Afternoon and other Maya Deren films, it's kind of like this clearly rubbed off on David Lynch. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I think we had we're probably almost nearly the same age and had a similar situation. So I didn't watch it when it was on TV because I was like 9 or 10, but like everyone in the country was talking about it. And then you're right, like that couple years later when I'm 13, 14 and like really getting into cool stuff, like it was all there. And it was just like, and yeah, Lost Highway was like 96, 97. Same thing.
Yeah.
I was probably a sophomore, junior, or something like that.
Yep. Same. Yeah.
And,
We're definitely the same age. Yeah.
No, I totally like, I'm totally with you. Like, it's weird because I mean, that's like what I choose to make all my videos about and like deep dives and this and that. But like, it's true, man. Like, I want to talk to people who are past the David Lynch's weird thing, because there's so much more going on, and my one thing I tell people right away, for every dark and twisted weird thing, there's like love and beauty and the glory of life or God or whatever you want to call it. Like,
absolutely,
he's tapped into like primal stuff, like,
yeah.
and that's his playground. And obviously he's basically, we got a comment here, like basically he's a surrealist painter that decided to make movies.
1,000%.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was thinking back when I was like 9, and first subconsciously discovering David Lynch, and then after the whole Twin Peaks thing, to this day I'll never forget. I remember the feeling that I got from this one short scene in Wild at Heart when they're at the bar, and then the guy, I forgot the guy's name. He's in a couple of David Lynch films, but he comes up to Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern. Is it Freddie Jones? I think that's who it was. He has this high-pitched voice, and he's like, pigeons spread diseases and mess up the place. You've seen that. And I remember being 10, 11, be like, what? And I still sometimes I have that scene. I have the movie on my phone. Oh man, don't want to talk about having movies on your phone and David Lynch. Oh, David Lynch wouldn't like that. Right. But I pull up that scene sometimes and just watch it on repeat a couple times. It's such a great like scene, and things like that kind of stick with me. You know what I mean? So
yeah, absolutely. So I was gonna pull up, I don't know if we have time or not. Oh, I just want to do kind of in the same bag as the side-by-side thing. And I was thinking about your side-by-side stuff, and I was also someone else I know was interviewed about there's a guy I know tries to find all these little threads in Twin Peaks and Lynch stuff, and he was interviewed and about a book that he was writing, and the guy was basically like, his whole take was like, hey, it doesn't even matter, like is Unchained Andalou. Everyone says that's a Lynch influence, but I just saw an interview the other day. He's never seen it. So
That
like,
goes back to that evasive thing, where it's like, really, have you not? I think directors
yeah. Or
do that
maybe
sometimes, or maybe he hasn't. And but that, also, I got to be honest, for someone, because he studied it, as weird and out there as he gets, he studied at AFI. So it's like David Lynch went to film school, and it's like, let's just say he didn't see it. Unche and Andalou is still one of those like kind of scholarly film school films.
staples.
Staple.
Yeah.
So it's like, and that movie was made in the late 1920s. So there's generations of films after that were influenced by it that he saw that he may not. There's this. I'm not sure. You know the filmmaker Xavier Dolan. He's this French Canadian filmmaker. He did Heartbeats, Mommy, I Killed My Mother, stuff like that. And his earlier films are so Godard. In an interview, and he's very young. He's like really young, actually. And he was saying how he's seen like one Godard film, and a lot of people called him a liar. But it's kind of like, yeah, but Godard is one of those guys where like there's filmmakers between Godard and Xavier Dolan now, like in between, that have taken so much from Godard. So it's quite possible that filmmakers are subconsciously influenced by people who were influenced by older, like that's just how, it's not even just film, like that's just how anything works, music, whatever.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Like that was my whole thing, is like there are things that just, when things are created, they're
Or
out
that too,
there.
what Inga's, I didn't mean to cut you off, Inga's saying too, it's like some people could have the same thought, absolutely, especially when people are in the same lane of things, some of the same thoughts happen, totally.
Yeah. And that's basically what I was getting at. Like, I guess my point is, I think a lot of people are way too hung up on like, well, this person said they never saw this film, therefore these two scenes can't be compared. And it's like, no, man, like
Right.
it's all out there. It's all in the ether,
Yeah.
man. Like, and Lynch has probably seen stuff when he was young that maybe he just doesn't remember.
That
But
too.
that certain image or something gets implanted in your brain, and then when he's meditating 60 years later, it like comes up as an idea, and maybe he doesn't even really remember where it came from. And I just when I talk about Lynch, I just want to remind people, like, art is not a science. Like, where I mean, obviously movie making is to a certain extent, but like, I just think that I want people to look at your side by sides and not get caught up on details. Just observe what's happening.
Sure.
And
Sometimes it's odd, because to me, like the conversation we're having, it's like film history. You know what I mean? Like you have, again, you're right. It's like it doesn't necessarily mean someone saw this and said, "Hey, I want to copy this or rip this off." But there is this subconscious thing and this kind of narrative through certain lanes of film that I feel like, if you like movies and you like film and you like film history, you'd appreciate it, versus just immediate kind of, sometimes contrarian, sometimes pushback of like, "Oh, no way." And that, outside of just the hashtag side by side, like that's what kind of why I do sometimes side by side by side, or side by side by side by side, where it's like showing 3 or 4 things next to each other, kind of like, so maybe, the first row influenced the second row, and the third and fourth row didn't know about the first row, but they were influenced by the second, you know what I mean? Or maybe not, but I'm just trying to show that, there is sometimes that there are continuous threads. Not throughout every film. I mean, you're not going to find similarities in every movie unless you really stretch and reach. But what's the point of that? But that to me is cool too. Like when you compare two things, and sometimes someone may chime in and be like, well, there's a scene like this in this movie too. And sometimes I just come in and be like, well, yeah, good, join in, please.
yeah,
It's like you're kind of to some degree proving my point. I'm not saying these are the only 2 movies that someone's taking a shower and it's like Psycho. I'm just it's like, yeah, good. You're trying to kind of be combative, but then in turn you're just kind of joining in on the fun and participating. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Man, I got to do this before you go.
Sure. What's up?
My favorite thing. So if people don't know, Marcus is a big fan of a movie called Clifford, starring the underappreciated, in my opinion. He's pretty famous, but I don't think that Martin Short gets the credit that he deserves, because I think he's a comedic genius.
He is.
But so Marcus has a incredible thread of Psycho meets Clifford. He does lots of
Oh,
Clifford
that's the
stuff.
little
So
mini thread. Oh yeah,
yeah.
I've got a Twin Peaks Firewalk with Me Clifford comparison too. But yeah,
Oh
anyway,
man, I
yeah,
should have found that. I
yeah.
don't think I've seen that. But anyway, Clifford, if you guys don't know, is like, in my opinion, was basically a kind of a throwaway early mid 90s comedy. Like, it did okay, I guess, but like you never hear it on like people, oh, that's one of my favorite comedies ever.
You kind
But
of do now. These
you do
days,
now, thanks to
suddenly,
you.
yeah, I'm just gonna say now, all of a sudden, there's these think pieces and essays and stuff on how it's a misunderstood masterpiece, and it's kind of like that's when my only child syndrome kicks in. It's like, wait a minute, where have you guys been? But anyway,
Hey,
yeah.
no, man, I think that is all because of you. I give you all the credit for the Clifford resurrection. I'm trying to find. Oh, okay, here we go. So this is great. The shower scene comparison. This is pretty great
Yeah, the
too.
person through
But
the door.
the I completely lost my mind. Completely lost my mind when I saw this next one. It's my favorite one of yours you've ever done.
Which one is
This
that?
one right here,
Let me
baby.
put. Oh, the staring at the cow. Yeah.
Oh, dude, ladies and gentlemen, this is the best thing I've ever seen on Twitter. Thanks to this guy. I completely lost. I don't know. Was this like, I can't remember. This is during lockdown or something. I lost my mind. I lost my
Yeah,
mind.
December 2020. That was like the first phase of it.
Hey, maybe I just needed a laugh. Whatever. It's
I'm
brilliant.
glad. Well,
So,
I'm glad it brought you a laugh. And this,
uh,
to this goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's like that little mini thread you brought up is kind of a combination of a couple things. One, it's that sector of comparisons where it's like I'm just kind of being silly, but at the same time, while Psycho isn't the first to kind of do that murder in the shower scene, it actually goes back to an even earlier film. But at the same time, everybody thinks of Psycho, and Psycho is another one of those like scholarly things where like, how many times has Psycho been referenced in movies? Like Psycho's one of like you don't even have to have seen it to know the music, to know the it's just kind of one of those things. So
yeah, absolutely. And that shot is just something that I never would have thought of, never would have noticed, but it's that like whatever, the dead eye stare or whatever you want to call it.
sure.
It was brilliant,
Oh,
man. Okay.
thanks, man.
So PINNLANDEmpire.com. Anywhere else you want to, where can
Yeah, I
people
mean,
find you?
yeah, PINNLANDEmpire.com, and if you go there, where he's pulled it up right now, it kind of you can click off to so many other things. So check out Zebras in America. It's the podcast that I do with my friend Scott. Check out the Pink Smoke. That's kind of always been my second home. As a matter of fact, I've been, like I said earlier, I've been writing for Pink Smoke longer than Pinland Empire existed. So I've got years and years of writing there too. I recently wrote a thing for Alta Journal where I got to interview Wendell B. Harris, who's the director of one of my favorite films ever, Chameleon Street. And I don't want to give too much away, but I'm gonna be delving into more of his stuff in the future, and I'll say no more on that. But listen, man, Zebras in America. We've been doing this podcast for almost 5 years now. We've had great guests. I mean, Charles Burnett, the great Charles Burnett, Killer of Sheep, he's been on the podcast a couple of times. Our mutual friend Shaka King has been on a couple of times, and he's now an Academy Award nominated filmmaker for Judas and the Black Messiah. We've interviewed so many great artists over the years. So check that out as well. Check out, also what really got me into podcasting heavy too was another kind of home away from Pinland Empire's Wrong Reel. That's a show that I'm on all the time. And again, James is a friend of mine outside of just Twitter too. So check out. I was just on Wrong Reel a couple of weeks ago. A new episode just came out. We were talking about Michael Mann, who's another favorite of mine. So yeah, but at the end of the day, if you go to PinlandEmpire.com, that'll take you to all the outside stuff that I do as well. So yeah.
Fantastic, man. I really appreciate you coming by. Totally.
Anytime. Yeah, no, this is fun. Any other time you want
Yeah,
to
if
chat
we
about
do it
anything Lynch
again,
related, please let me know.
if we do it again, maybe I'll message you on the side if there's something specific coming up. Or I want to, you and me should go into Inland Empire because that is divisive and expansive and weird, and we should just do that sometime.
I saw it 10 times in the theater.
Oh man,
So
that's amazing.
I've got
Awesome.
I've got a lot to say about it. So
Cool, bud. All right. Well,
awesome.
you take care of yourself. We'll talk soon.
Yeah,
Thanks
we'll talk
again
again,
for coming
man.
on.
This was fun. Thank you.
Cool, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Take care. All right, everybody. We're going to have one more guest on, and this is Patrick from Talking Backwards podcast. Can you hear me, bud?
I can. Can you hear me?
Okay. Now that you're talking, now I can hear you.
Excellent.
So,
it's just
I'm
you
going to
and
pull
I.
up some other tabs. Yeah. So it's just me and him. So Patrick is 1/3 of the Talking Backwards podcast, and I've been on there a couple of times, and they've graciously recorded those video sessions and let me put those on my channel. So if you go to there's an interviews and discussions playlist. Our latest one is on the front page upload. When we talked about Judy with Talking Backwards and Damn Fine TV. So I'm going to pull up some of your web pages while I'm doing that. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell me where Dave and Tyler are
at. Dave is lost in the woods, Jerry Horn style, and Tyler was busy painting some golden shovels and could not make it tonight. If I had to guess where they were, I don't know for sure. But they send their love, of course. And I wanted to thank you for giving me the 9:30 p.m. at the Roadhouse time slot. That was what I immediately thought of. So nice. I appreciate that. But also just up front wanted to say thank you for doing these community chats, because it's just amazing to hear from so many different people, and all the different creators, people who are keeping, Twin Peaks alive, keeping the conversation going. I don't even necessarily consider myself a creator, I guess. I'm just 1/3 of a podcast host, but I love hearing what everyone has to say. As far as Talking Backwards, if anyone hasn't listened to Talking Backwards, we're a Twin Peaks podcast. We started in 2019. We started basically like an episode by episode coverage of Twin Peaks all the way through the return, which we wrapped in like late last year. Oh yeah, got a little clip here.
Sorry. Hey, I cannot get the sound to work without unplugging all of my stuff. So I'm just gonna show kind of the the hijinks.
I can explain too. This is from our upcoming return recap. So this is already available as a video podcast on our Patreon. But the audio is going to be available at the end of the month, I believe on March 26th. The segment we're doing there was a new one called It's a Gold Ball Talking Tulpas. So it was a good 10-minute discussion on gold balls and tulpas, as you can see. So yeah, I've had so much fun editing these video podcasts. It seems like they get wackier and wackier with some of the ideas that we come up with. I don't know. I hope we're bringing something different to the table, but I can just tell you for sure we're having a good time. Tyler, if you haven't listened to our show, Tyler had never watched Twin Peaks. That was sort of the gimmick of our podcast. He'd never seen an episode of Twin Peaks, and he was watching it week to week with us as we were doing the podcast. So he wasn't able to binge it. He was watching it at the slowest Lynchian pace possible. Not even week to week. It was slower than that, I feel like. But that studio you see there, that's all Tyler. Even all the podcast equipment stuff. Tyler got really into it, and continues to blow me away, as you know, Mr. Ring, with some of his thoughts and theories. He was even really good at just predicting something in the moment. We would do live streams. We still do live streams on our Patreon, and we would do live streams, kind of watch parties, watching some of the episodes where Tyler was seeing them for the first time. And he would say, "What year is this?" 5 minutes before so-and-so would say it on screen. And I had to stop and be like, he hasn't seen this, right? But because there's so many other genuine reactions. I've known Tyler forever, and Dave, to know if I'm getting bullshitted. So, yeah, it's wild.
I think Tyler's your guys' secret weapon.
He is.
He's like, oh man, he's gonna kill me. I don't mean this in a bad way. I mean this in a great way. But he's like I don't know, he's like Andy or Hawk, or like he's like one of those guys. It's like, I think this guy's there for like comic relief or something, but he's probably smarter than all of you guys.
Dave and Tyler, I feel this is just me, and I'm also
Sorry,
just,
Dave.
I'm extremely hard on myself. Dave and Tyler, I'm always just like blown away. And the real problem though, let me tell you, with this return recap episode that we've got coming out, that was one of the, in my opinion, my favorite episodes we've done. It was so much fun, and I think it was because the chains were finally off, because I was having to hold back spoilers for 2 years. So the chains were finally off, and I could finally speak freely, and just like it just seemed like everything was flowing really well, and I was like, wow, this is like really good fun. And Evan, like that's the thing, talking about the Twin Peaks community, like become friends with Evan here, like, so, appreciate him listening and sticking with us, and we're constantly blown away by the Twin Peaks community. Like, can't say enough good things. I feel like everyone is so kind and gracious. Hearts of gold, I guess I should say.
Solid gold.
Solid gold. Yeah.
So actually, yeah, I don't want to ruin that, but I did ruin the season 3 recap episode, but I did want to, and I'll have all you guys on at some point.
For sure. We'd love that.
But I just wanted to know, like, what are you guys feeling now that it's all over? But I guess it's more of a Tyler question, like experiencing it live, but also you told me the other day that like you still think about the return like all the time.
Every day, like every day. And I'm not even kidding. Like nothing makes me feel this way. People will like think I'm crazy, but I'm just like, I think about it all the time. Something will pop up, I'm like doing something around the house, or like even if I'm, I'm working or like just driving, like something will pop in my head and I'm like, oh my God. I joke about it in the recap episode. I'm like, that headache you get like when you start thinking about theories. It's a lot. But no, we're good. It was, we really did some crazy things, I feel like, last year, where we kind of rushed the last, recording wise, not releasing them, but rushed recording the last several episodes, because we ended up making a trip to Washington to Twin Peaks, which was a little bit crazy, like with just everything going on. Oh, thank you, Creamed Corn in the Universe. Look at that.
Creamed Corn says, you, Dave, and Tyler have great energy that you bring to every episode. Yeah, I'm going to cut you off right there because it's true. No, I told Damn Fine TV, Jasmine and Mel's last month. Yes, they were on the last community chat. But it's basically the same reason I like their channel or their podcast, like yours. You got it's structured well. You have great intros. It's funny. You have running gags. The video versions. Like it's like you guys. A lot of podcasts do, for sure, and I'm I'm gonna have more people from other podcasts on down the road. So Talking Backwards is, despite popular opinion, Talking Backwards isn't the only Twin Peaks podcast I like. However, you have all the elements of a great podcast. It's entertaining. It's funny. Running gags. I love it. I love it. It's great.
The running gags are my favorite thing. Just that took a bit also to happen. I mean, that's with any podcast. I look back, our season 1 was a little clunky. We still don't know what we're doing, but we really didn't know what we were doing when we first started the show. And there were many segments we didn't introduce till our season 2 coverage that I felt like we really started to click a little bit, like more. And so I guess on that note, I'll just go ahead and say we're going back. We're going to season 1. We're doing the rewatch. That's kind of going to be our big thing that's going to take us through this year. And the good thing about the revisit, we'll get those old like all the gags in from the show, but we're gonna go back, and basically all the chains are off. It's gonna be spoilers everywhere. Empty who? Yeah, that's a good one. We are going to be talking all things like I'm basically calling it like rewatching Twin Peaks season 1 through the lens of the return. So it's not we're going to go in and talk about scene by scene. We're all just going to kind of roundtable what stood out, and were there connections that you made to everything else. So I'm like really super excited about that. We're also going to go back and rate it because we never rated season 1. Our rating system, which is called Talking Foreheads, wasn't introduced until season 2. So we got to go back and like give it, even though it's different now, especially with Tyler. Because Tyler, I was going to say, you brought up like, what does Tyler think now? I'd be very curious. It's almost been a year since he wrapped watching The Return. He saw parts 17 and 18 at the beginning or end of April, and it was right before we did our trip to Twin Peaks. So on our Patreon, where we have most of the video podcasts from The Return, we actually filmed part 17 and 18 on location, and we did 17 at the Kiana Lodge, which was where like we're sitting basically with a Great Northern background. It looks like we're just chilling in the Great Northern, like recording, which was super surreal. And then we did part 18 in the Palmer House living room at Mary Reber's, which was also just so surreal, just wild, just sitting there like on her couch recording an episode of our podcast. And it's all filmed and recorded. One of the coolest, craziest experiences. We also did the Double R, where we interviewed the owners, Max and Rachel, who are the coolest people on the planet. Shout out to them. Couldn't be more kind. So it was just, that was one of the coolest experiences like that I'll never forget. And I'm dying to go back, like I want to go back.
Yeah, we need to talk about that.
We do. we need to trip. We almost had you looped in to go with us on that trip. We were so close for that happening.
Anybody watching who knows me, I was this close. They were like, we're going to Snoqualmie to do the last couple episodes. And I was like, oh God, I want to go so bad. And I guess the reason I couldn't go is because I was making a video for the conference for last year. Right. And if I'd have gone on that trip, I'd have been completely boned. Like I'd have been screwed for that whole thing. But so, I mean, it was a trade-off, but I'm seeing this video come back and they're hanging out at the Palmer House and all that stuff. I'm just like, God, I'm so jealous. But anyway, we should go.
Yes.
What are we talking about? Maybe next Twin Peaks Day.
Yeah. Hearing some things about maybe Tweed's trying to celebrate a little bit, and I don't know. I mean, we'll see how the next year shakes out. Yeah. Fingers crossed, though. I would love to make it happen, and especially if a lot of the community can get together, because it was really great this year for Twin Peaks Day, just seeing a lot of people doing the Instagram lives from there and doing a bunch of cool stuff, and it was just like, yeah, this is just another thing I feel like we really need to do something special. Yeah, I Agent Ivy, you need to come with us, please. And I didn't comment about Brad's comment, but Brad, if you listen to us, please, that would love that. No, yeah,
I left that up. So he hasn't seen The Return. Yeah, dude, you got to watch The Return right away, and you
got to watch it.
Actually, you should watch it with their podcast and go through it the way like Tyler was going through it. So like watch an episode, then listen to their podcast and watch an episode, because it's spoiler free, right? Do you have a spoiler version at the?
No, we don't do. Okay. So Damn Fine TV does the spoiler section. We don't. There are times where I
slip
throughout, not a lot, but I don't. Well, no, like I'll just say like a line maybe in season 2 from The Return, but Tyler didn't know what I was talking about. I'm just saying stuff as it comes to me, but there's nothing that's like, hey, this is something that happens.
Yeah. But Brad, I'll tell you, you're a fan of 80s and 90s television, like the season, like strap in for season 3, because it's not that.
It's not.
Let's not even get into it.
That'll turn into another hour.
It's David Lynch. It's a 20-hour movie that's kind of like modern TV. Like it has a crime. It's kind of CSI meets like an AMC show, like a Breaking Bad, kind of a crime show, but it's also kind of Twin Peaks now, but it's all seen through the lens of David Lynch. Like he was still making Inland Empire.
Right.
So you have long stretches of like no music and like long stretches of like, I don't know what is going on. Like you're not even going to be able to take it all in until you've seen all of it. So it's an 18-hour David Lynch movie, and it's a mess.
It's a beautiful
I love
mess.
it. Yeah. Hey,
it's a beautiful mess.
Yeah. I don't devote all my free time talking about this stupid show if I hated it. But
it's just so
no,
good.
it's great. It's a 20-hour David Lynch movie. So strap in.
Yeah.
Dethroner says, which Twin Peaks set would you rebuild to do a podcast in? Which you basically did, and you did the Red Room there.
We did we did sort of a Red Room thing there. I mean, I feel like you need to pick something too that doesn't still exist, because the double R is still there. You can still do like the Great Northern. You would need to do something that doesn't exist.
Yeah. I would do the convenience store room. I would do above the convenience store with the torn drapes and the strobe lights with the electrical stuff.
Yeah, that would be pretty good. I was gonna say, like, I mean, we filmed and recorded a couple of just like quick teasers for our Instagram. We did like in the woods, like around Jack Rabbit's Palace and like Gersten's Tree and that stuff.
Right,
that was really, really cool. Yeah, I was trying to think of more of season one, season two stuff, but I'm thinking of like the Hayward like living room. Was that actually based off that house? It was.
It's still because it was. Man. Well, no. Okay, I take that back. Oh, wait, I
know the house is there. I just didn't know if the living room was from that house. Somebody knows. Somebody knows who's watching, I'm sure. Or I was going to say like the Leos.
I do know. I know. I just had to put it together in my head. So I can't remember if the inside of the Hayward home in the pilot, when Doc Hayward opens the door for Mike and Donna sneaks out, like that's the real house. And that same house was used in Fire Walk with Me when Laura and Donna Maura Kelly are in the living room. That's the same house. And the pillars, like Bob walking in and crawling over the couch, it's there. But I'm pretty sure that the Bob crawling over the couch was like middle of season 2. Pretty sure that's a set in California based on the owners based on the real house
aren't as welcoming.
So it's like everything else. Yeah, it's like everything else. The pilot and Fire Walk with Me were shot on location in the real house. I believe all the stuff in the show proper is a set made to kind of look like the way the house.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, which I mean, of course, they elaborated that on the Great Northern too, making that look even bigger than what it was in the pilot.
You know what would be
air pressure.
You know what would be cool is if I devoted my life or my brain to remembering stuff that actually is important.
Right. There's so much.
Instead of where they shot the Hayward house in season 1990, season 2 of 1990 TV show. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, that's the thing. Like, there's things I constantly feel like I'm learning something new, or somebody will post something, on Twitter or Reddit or somewhere, and I'll see it and I'll be like, oh wow, like my mind will get blown, and I'm like, but then a couple hours later or a day later, I'm like, did I know that before? Is it just getting like, re-implanted into my brain where I'm just like, oh, I'm thinking about this again? I don't know. It's so strange. But yeah, again, never felt like this about any show ever. It's the greatest, in my opinion, of course.
Yeah. And I think that was it your podcast? I don't know. I was on talking to somebody recently, and I don't know any other show. I'm sure there are shows that you can get into that have these rabbit holes, I mean, anything with like a mythology, like Game of Thrones or whatever, like you can read the books, and then there's these spin-off books, and then there's the whole histories of all these families and stuff. Like Star Wars, same, there's planets and aliens and star, but like Twin Peaks is different because it's like, it's not like world building universe stuff that you can geek out on. It's like mythology, different, like people's like mythologies, and like, I mean, I'm just like, I'm down so many rabbit holes like constantly.
Right.
It's like,
yeah, there's just so many layers.
Theosophy. Do you know what theosophy is? So theosophy
No.
is a Victorian era philosophy that around the same time as like Aleister Crowley and the Golden Dawn, actually a little before Crowley, but some of the White Lodge stuff and the Hidden Masters stuff, and some of the stuff that started creeping up in season 2 comes from theosophy. And then Mark Frost, theosophy was created by this lady, Helena Blavatsky. And Blavatsky is a character in one of Frost's novels, the novel he wrote after Twin Peaks. So like, okay, so there's lodges and hidden masters that are passing knowledge to people that whatever, like that's the whole, like now I'm reading books on theosophy.
Right.
Who
Remember
you
saying
know,
this.
like,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
who, like I never would have thought that kind of stuff. And then because it's just like there's so many unanswered questions that you're just constantly like, again, like the sets, like Twin Peaks blog, talking to that dude about shooting locations and props and different stuff, and like it naturally makes you want to. Oh man,
like falling into his website so many times, I'm like, wow, it's amazing.
Oh yeah,
it's like appreciate the dedication. Kudos to you, sir. It's awesome.
Yeah, that dude. So if you guys don't know, twinpeaksblog.com, there's a video I did with him. I interviewed him because I made 2 shooting location documentaries, and then I interviewed him, who was on site of the we did like a spin-off about the California shooting locations. So you can check out a video with him. He's a great dude. And then 12 Rainbow Trout is another guy on Instagram. Check out 12 Rainbow Trout. He tracks down he contributes to Twin Peaks blog, but he also tracks down props. Like, oh, I found this book that was on Laura Palmer's desk in that one scene. Like, oh, like
we'll follow him right now because he's celebrating Evelyn March. That's right.
Evelyn March.
Props related to Evelyn March. He's like, like the most recent post was like the records on her floor, I think, in one of those scenes. It might be like when the shooting happens, but man, it's amazing. It's
can
so
we
good.
Can we talk for a second? I am not a oh wait, here you go. Someone Cream Corn in the Universe says Twin Peaks blog was a huge help when I visited the locations in Washington, especially the state park. Yep. Bam.
Yeah, because he would put like coordinates. And I mean, I was gonna even plug your 3 days in Twin Peaks video. And I mean, I know we also chatted. I remember Tyler and I got on Zoom with you one night and we're just like, hey, we're trying to make a game plan of how to like organize our day or plan our days, for which locations we're going to. Yeah. But your 3 days in Twin Peaks video too is just such a great resource if you're making the trip.
Yeah, you guys should all check that out. I forgot we did talk about that because you guys were like, had my video just it had been out for a little bit, but you guys were like, hey, we got to jump on a call. Like we're only because you guys were on a limited time because you guys all have families and jobs and all that stuff, and they flew in on a Tuesday and Tuesday morning and we're leaving like a Friday morning, so they're there for like 3 days. So they called me and they were just like, oh yeah. And Cameron's in the chat now. He was on the show at the beginning of the show. So
God bless you,
before I went up there, I was on the phone with him, and he's like, okay, so the sheriff station and Sparkwood and 21 and the mill, like it's all kind of in this in the sign, it's all kind of in the same area. So he walked me through all of that. Yeah. But yeah, they were only going to be there for 3 days. They're like, look, we're on a limited time. Like, we need you to like break this down, like explain like where everything is. And then you get up there and it's just like, oh my God, this really is just a small town. Like once you know where everything's at, it's like easy. Like I can't wait to go back because I've internalized where everything is at. So it's just like, we'll go here, we'll go there with whatever. But when you get there,
go back, you're just without having to record and like film about
God.
like and just I want to go and record, don't get me wrong, like I would still go and record, but now that I've been, it'll be much better to go back and I can take a little bit more in because it definitely felt rushed, but I was also just, I think every location I went to, I was just in awe that, oh my gosh, this is incredible. So incredible.
Yeah, we if you guys, it's like my most popular video on my channel, but I totally just did that like run and gun. Like I was on vacation. Like I basically
Right, it was fantastic time.
I quit my job. I got a new job. I had a week in between the two jobs. And I'm like, I'm just going to sit on the couch and do nothing, you know, and get ready to start this new job. And my wife's like, you need to do something that you want to do. And I'm like what? I want to sit on the couch. I don't want to do anything. She's like, we should go to Seattle. You're always talking about going to Twin Peaks. I'm like, oh yeah, we should. So I called one dude and like borrowed some audio equipment. I called another guy, my friend who had a camera, a GH2, and I'm not even a really good camera guy, but he's like, he had hacked it. So there's a little bit of more play with lights and, ISOs.
Tell me that was fantastic. Like you're like lined up shots with shots from the series and the transitions.
Yeah. So
like, it was so great.
Yeah, I made a quick PDF. I threw a bunch of screen grabs in a PDF that I had on my phone. That was so large it took forever to load on my phone. So I ended up just winging like 90% of 75% of those shots. I just winged it. But yeah, no, it was good. It was good. But I'm looking forward to going there without having a camera. Oh, there's Deer Meadow Mountain. I got to take a shot of that. Oh, there's this.
Right,
I got to take a shot of that. Like, oh, there's this. I got to take a shot of that. We just go there and like get drunk or something.
Yeah, right. Go to Elks Point 9.
Yeah, just smoking Joe's, baby. So what was I going to say? About your... Oh crap! I lost it. Go ahead and let's. I was
gonna say, was it about Grixoni? I know you wanted to plug Grixoni's cameo.
Oh yeah. So tell them about that. That was cool.
Well, yeah, we had James Grixoni, who plays Deputy Jesse, who ended up being Dave's favorite new character of the Return. Believe it or not. I'm not going to question it. I love it. I love that he took to James Grixoni. But James was kind enough to sit down with us for an hour and chat, and that's on our podcast feed now. But that was a live stream on our Patreon that our supporters could hop on and watch and ask questions and stuff. So it was a really fun time. But James, man, what an interesting guy. I can't say enough good things like about him. Like he couldn't have been more kind and gracious. But he's got a cameo, which I just loved because he plugged it a few times. So I'm like always plugging it to any Twin Peaks friends. Because I was watching, because if you go on Cameo, if you don't know what Cameo is, you go on and you can just buy a video from a celebrity. All kinds of people are on Cameo, but you can go and watch some of the ones that they've made, and he's definitely put a lot of time into his cameos. Are super entertaining. But love that guy. Hoping to do something else with him in the future. He's great. It was great because we were gonna have him on and talk about, because he's in this new movie called Potato Dreams in America, and I was I was really wanting to talk about that and plug that, and he seemed sort of like it'd been a long week where he was doing like some promoting for that movie, and seemed sort of just ready to just chill, relax, and just chat about whatever. Which it was fine. I was just I was really hey, we should really promote your movie more. But he was really, really cool. Super, super nice.
Yeah. So
some really good stories from the premiere too, by the way, if you listen. Some really great stories from the night of the Twin Peaks premiere, which were just hilarious. So
yeah, funny. You guys need to jump on Talking Backwards Patreon just to check out this interview with this dude.
The video is very funny.
It was great. I am going to cameo him. I just want to talk to him for 10 minutes just for the hell of it, because he seems like a cool dude.
Absolutely.
So at some point I'm just going to do that and just call him up and be like, dude.
Yeah, you should. I already said I'm going to have to get one of these for Dave's birthday coming up in a couple of months. I'm just going to, Dave, spoiler if you're watching, I don't think he's watching.
Okay,
I did want to
here-
real quick. I wanted to plug real quick Sign Peaks, aka Jesse Brooks, who runs the Sign Peaks account.
Wait, that's what
sorry.
I was going to ask you.
Oh,
Tell people what the hell is going on Instagram.
okay.
But so we've got Sign Peaks. You can
Dude,
tell
there's
them about
so
that.
many.
And now there's Iggy Pop Peaks.
There's like it's his is I
the
feel
Jedi
like,
one.
I don't want to call
Is
it
it
the main one, but it's like the I don't even know if it's the original, but it's certainly, I guess, the most popular one. So it's like a Seinfeld Twin Peaks meme account, and he's been doing it for a couple of years now. And you know, it's blown up in the Twin Peaks community. But he's got a podcast called The Other Side of Darkness, which is very good. I've actually contributed some music to some episodes that he's done, where he basically did a Kickstarter, hired a bunch of voice actors, and did a Seinfeld Twin Peaks, or it's a more of a Seinfeld in the style of David Lynch, but it's like 30-minute episodes that are just you listen to. So I did some music. I'm a very, very small part. I'm not like my music. It's a bunch of different people, but I did some music for a couple of scenes. And I'm trying to work on some more stuff for him, but I just wanted to plug that quick because I think it's just a really cool and unique project. And he's even had some of the Seinfeld and Twin Peaks actors on, like he's had Alicia Witt on. Interviewed her, so he's got a lot of interviews, so there's a lot of really cool stuff there that is definitely worth checking out. It's not the same see Agent M83's comment, it's not the same as Seinfeld The Return. It is funny how many Seinfeld Twin Peaks crossovers there are, because I remember seeing him plug the Sign Peaks, Jesse. He plugged a lot of that video that this other guy made, basically mashing up Seinfeld and Twin Peaks, The Return, which was very, very good, I thought. But yeah, there's so many, like you said, there's so many meme accounts. I've seen the Star Wars one recently. I'm just like,
guys,
oh my god!
Anybody watching this, you guys need to get on Instagram and you need to
There's
look
so
up
many though.
Sign Peaks. My current favorite are Demon Peaks and Goth Peaks.
Yeah, their podcast, Dark Peaks. They've
They're-
got a podcast too. They
they-
joined. Yeah,
Right. So they got a podcast called Dark Peaks, and they're like evil, dark shit.
yeah.
Like really dark, twisted takes on Twin Peaks. But like, then there's Wholesome Peaks, which is
Right.
the opposite, which is all like.
I think Demon
sunshine-
Peaks was made in response to Wholesome Peaks, but I think Wholesome Peaks made their account because of Sad Peaks. So it's just this
Oh, right.
continuing, it's like
Yeah.
this continuing, never-ending thing.
And they
I
all
don't know
talk-
all of that for sure, but yeah.
and
I'm
they
pretty
all
sure.
talk shit too. Like they all trash each other all day long in their story, and it's like it's fun. Like they don't really hate each other, I don't think. But if you guys
It's
want to be
fun. It's
if you guys already are on Instagram, if you have an Instagram account,
Yeah.
start with Sign Peaks, Demon Peaks, Goth Peaks, Wholesome Peaks.
Wholesome
There's
Peaks.
Sad Peaks. Get
Yep.
with Talking Backwards. Get with Damn Fine TV. Get with me. There's so
There's
many.
so much.
It's hilarious. Like I need a laugh. I just log in it. I just go on flip through my Instagram feed. Oh,
Yeah, if you're tired of
it-
doom scrolling somewhere else, just hop on Instagram, follow all
yeah,
these accounts.
just get all these Twin Peaks meme accounts, and you'll just lose your mind. I want to have Demon Peaks on the
So
show.
fun.
I want to have
Yeah.
Wholesome Peaks on the show. I want to have them both on the show at the same time.
Same time.
To fight, or to do whatever they do.
Duel. Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. They gotta
so-
arm wrestle it out.
Yeah. So real quick, Dethroner, did he use Magic Lantern to hack it? Talking about my camera, I'm asking because I've been wanting to, not sure if it's safe. I will get back to you on that. I want to say yes, but again, I didn't do it, and the camera is probably now 10 years old, and he probably hacked it 7 years ago. So message me or email me or something, get a hold of me, remind me, and I still talk to him every day. So I will ask him. So just get a hold of me. Cameron wants
soon.
to know soon.
We'll
All right.
I want to make it happen. We can barely, as you can see, we can all three barely get together like for one night.
Yeah,
But
I tried to get to get all three of them on here, but yeah, we'll do it.
it's tough. It's we can barely get together. But I'm I'm hopeful that when we do get together, there's gold that's happening, that's being created. You know, speaking of all of that, there's a certain energy that comes from the three of us being together when we record together in the red room versus doing a Zoom. Because this Saturday on our Patreon, we did an episode on the Dual Spires, the Psych episode, and we did all that Zoom because we weren't able to get together. But there's a certain energy. The chemistry is so different when we're in the same room. So we're always trying to we try to get together as often as we can, which is so tricky, with just personal lives, family, everything. But we still love doing this, and we're going to keep it going as long as we can. But I'm telling you, scheduling is always the toughest part. Always the toughest part.
Yeah. I just want to say, we've gone over time a little bit. So if you're new to the show or new to my little community chat thing that I'm doing here, I'm trying to have different guests on and do like half-hour time slots. So Cameron from Queen of Hearts was on the first half hour. Marcus, Pinland Empire, was on the second half hour. Your third half hour is up.
Yes, I'm done.
But I put you last because usually I do a live stream by myself after I put out a video. So I'm doing these showcases now, but if you've been following my channel for a while, like basically I just put like a video up every 4 to 6 months, and then maybe a live stream in between just to kind of talk about that video or what's coming up next or whatever. So I don't think I'm going to be doing those solo shows anymore. I'm going to be doing these community showcases. And if you join my Patreon, takethering.com or patreon.com/takethering430, you can join my Patreon for $1 and you have access to all my stuff. I'll do in lieu of doing a podcast or doing these solo live chats anymore, I do Patreon updates. So that's basically my Take the Ring podcast is on my Patreon, sort of. And I got a bunch of other exclusive stuff that's not out there. But so in lieu of that, I asked to keep you on a little bit because I did want to talk about my new video a little bit. Since that's normally what I do after I put out a video. I'll do a live chat by myself and just like take questions or whatever. But so I'm forcing Patrick to ask me a couple questions about my own video.
Listen.
But I also want to say Patrick is thanked in the end credits of that last video because he's all the guys, but him specifically has had me on the show a bunch, and he's let me upload some of our stuff to my channel to show to you guys, which is helpful, like getting clicks and stuff on my channel. And like everyone else in the world, like the last couple of years has been kind of rough, and there's days where I just like, do I want to make Twin Peaks videos? Am I tired of this? Whatever. But then I'll get a random text from Patrick in the middle of the week and be like, dude, did you ever check out this? Or like, what do you think of this? Or like, hey, do you want to come on the show next week? So it's like, he's one of the little bumps throughout like the last couple of years. It's been like, oh yeah, there's cool people still out there and people are like this stuff. And like, yeah, cool. Like, yeah, I'll keep it going. So I put a thanks to Patrick in the latest video that I did. And I figured instead of me just talking by myself for a half hour about it, I'd force him to ask me some questions so it's more entertaining for you guys. Yeah.
Well, speaking to that for a second, when I first saw and watched the sequel video, the streamers video, I totally wasn't expecting to see my name at the end, and kind of got, I don't know, like it was like, wow, I was pretty blown away. I don't want to say I got like super emotional, but I was a little blown away because like I remember finding your first talk about Judy video. Probably, I mean, it had to have been not long after you posted it. I feel like I've seen it so many times now, but it was long before we started doing Talking Backwards, because when we first started doing Talking Backwards, it was a little more of Dave's initial idea, and I kind of wanted to just be sort of third wheel and not like be super involved, and it kind of just spitballed. But I was like, wouldn't have expected back then that I would be like chatting with you now or talk or even just having you on the show and whatnot. So I was pretty blown away by that. I appreciate you did not have to do that, but I appreciate that very much. I do have a couple of questions about the video. I know the first thing I want to bring up, just in case we do run out of time, I want to just talk about really quick your catch of the double audio scream. It's one of the most badass catches I've ever seen. I'm telling you, and this is what I was saying earlier. It's like I've learned something new about the show or find a connection every day or whatever. There's always something new to discover. But, like you said in the video, every trip around the loop will be different with each viewing. And that's so damn true. And also why I can't wait to revisit season 1 on our show. But tell me just a little more about that. I love your editing too, showing the sound waves from that. When did you notice that? When did that click in your head?
Early on. It was early on. So
Okay.
So I'm trying to remember the date. Sorry, guys. So I don't know.
I need exact date and time.
No. So this all started with kind of like Take the Ring. It started with, it was going to be a podcast, talking to my sister. Me and my sister were going to do a Twin Peaks podcast, but then that didn't work, but we still talked about it. And then I'm like, well, I'm a video guy. I should make videos instead. So that's how that kind of all got started. So this was like right after, so this is 2018 at some point. And I don't remember exactly when, but I remember it was in my head in 2018 after the return, because I went to a convention here in town and Cheryl Lee was at it. And I got there super early. It was a Sunday morning, so there wasn't a lot of people there. So I actually got like a good 10 minutes, like 10, 15 minutes, like just me and Cheryl Lee talking. And she was like, of course, sweet and awesome and wonderful and whatever. And it's not a big deal because like she hears this crap all day long and I don't even, whatever. But she was asking me, I was like, oh, I know this person that has this theory. And I know this person that has this theory. And I think my first talk about Judy video was out. It was out because I was like, oh, I went to this thing and I showed this video and, there's this, it's kind of based on my theory, but this guy and Laura's like scream is like a bomb kind of thing. There's a trap. And I know someone else that thinks this is all about like the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And I know like da-da-da-da. And then she was like, so what do you think though? Like, what do you think? And I was like, I don't know, but that scream, I was like, I don't know if necessarily like Laura is the dreamer and this is all in Laura's head, and I explained to her, I'm like, those screams are the same. I hadn't done the side by side yet. And I was like, but there's flashing lights. You can hear a doubled audio track, flashing lights, and then there's a cut to black, and then like an echo into darkness. And then in Fire Walk with Me, she wakes up, and in the return, she doesn't. So it's kind of like, if this is all Laura's dream, if Twin Peaks is all Laura's dream, I think the scream in Fire Walk with Me, she realizes it's her father is evil, and she screams, and the lights go out. And in the return, she realizes her mother is evil, arguably. Right. And she screams and the lights go out. And I think that if this is really like an infinity loop, then this is where they overlap. And if she's the dreamer, she wakes up the next morning to either confront her father again, or to run away, or to confront her mom, or maybe it's just all the same stuff happens again and we're just along for the ride just to view it all over again. So it's been in my head for a while, and but it came from long talks with my sister, and I were obsessed with the infinity loop. And I was like, no, look, it was the Twin Peaks symbol literally turns into the infinity loop. Like the story itself, Twin Peaks itself is literally turning into a infinity loop. So like, and around the same time we were talking about that is when I started, I was like, man, like those screams are like the same elements. And I hadn't done the side by side yet. And then, so this was all kind of like, so I'm writing notes about the infinity loop and I'm talking to my sister about it. And I grabbed the clips of the two screams and I throw them on a timeline. I don't even think I watched it, but I just saved it. I was like, I know I'm going to get back to this at some point. So basically this has been rolling around in my head for like 2 or 3 years at this point.
Wow.
And at first I was just going to do a talk about Judy video about the Kreider theory and Dale Cooper and the Hollywood trilogy and all that stuff. Because and John Thorne had a pretty solid Dale Cooper theory at the same time. And then then Thorne kind of was like, well, I'm writing a book now and my theory is kind of like not the same. But this takes forever because the stupid the location docs pop up. It's like I wanted to do this. I wanted to talk about Judy 2 in 2019. But I ended up going to Snoqualmie and filming all that stuff. And I had to finish episode 4. Then COVID happened in quarantine. So I decided to do the 3 days in Twin Peaks and the Palmer House video. And now I'm obsessed with the occult and stuff. And so I did the Scarlet Woman video for the conference and all that stuff. So like, I'm like, all right, okay. Now that's all that's done. I'm going to do a talk about Judy video. So what I did was I took Thorne out of the equation, just focused on Kreider and mostly the Hollywood trilogy comparison. I did the Gordon Cole thing like for fun because that's something that's been in like the back of my mind. Like I remember like Marcus was talking about like pre-internet days or when it wasn't a big thing. Like you'd meet people that are into Twin Peaks and be like, oh, it's like a show within a show, you know, like the soap opera. And like, get it, he's the FBI director, but he also the director of the show. Yeah. So like that's kind of like people been talking kind of like that stuff for years. So I just decided to like run with that and make something kind of funny because I have all these like David Lynch and Gordon Cole notes for another episode that I don't even know when I'm going to get to it. But I was like, the FBI doesn't even do anything. Like they don't catch Mr. C. They don't figure out Dougie. They don't do anything. Like what are they doing? And I'm like,
the best part.
It's I'm like, oh, it's just a vehicle for the director to like drop us little clues of stuff.
Dougie is Cooper?
Dougie is Cooper. I'm like, yeah, dude.
We knew this.
Part 3, part 4. We figured this out. That was 12 hours ago of screen time, dude. Holy crap.
Hey, you know what this means, Mr. Ring? You know what this means? It means we are the FBI.
Yeah, basically. Pretty much. So I was like, well, I'm just going to do a short Cooper thing. And I definitely want to work on I definitely want to iron out this Laura theory because I dig it. But I'll round it out with do a fun, like kind of more of a funny, lighthearted David Lynch thing. And then it became like, okay, so we got 3 characters who are the dreamers within the story, but like a character, we are like characters too. We're also dreamers. And I wanted to wrap it all up with like, hey, like David Lynch believes in the collective unconscious and like we are all connected and we are all participants in all of this stuff. And everyone has their own theory. And just like the characters, everyone kind of lives in their own dream, like kind of however you want to look at all that stuff. So I wanted to bring in the metaphysical stuff, but I also wanted to have fun with like, okay, you guys like theories? Like here's Gordon Cole is the dreamer. Or Dale Cooper's the dreamer, and he's a bad guy in real life, and this is all his escape fantasy, like the other Lynch movies. Or because I dismissed the Laura Palmer as the dreamer thing. It's right after the turn, people like, oh, Laura Palmer's the dreamer, and like the scream was her waking up, and I'm like, is she though? Because
it's too easy.
It's too easy, and like, and the whole story's about Cooper, right?
Right.
Like this is his death journey or spiritual path or whatever. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well. I didn't like completely dismiss it, but I was like, okay, yeah, it's kind of easy, right? But then, like I said, like I was like the screams matching up and the infinity loop and this and that, and then the fact that they share the same dream. So like, even if it's all about Cooper, it's still all about Laura. And then especially in the eyes of Fire Walk with Me, like the whole thing is about violence being cyclical and stuff like it. The Fire Walk with Me is the linchpin of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so some of that came from my sketchbook. I mean, that's like sketches and talks and random stuff. And then I finally kind of like, it was all mapped out probably a year ago, but then it was 6 months ago when I was like, all right, I've got it written out. Like, I just need to like put this together. So anyway,
it's awesome. Yeah. I'll touch on that too quick. I think there's an early episode of our podcast where we may have been, I have not gone back and listened to those, but there was definitely a moment where I was alluding to the like Laura is a dreamer theory, and I didn't say that specifically, but I remember saying something along the lines of there's a theory that I'm not very into. And because I feel like if you're saying one person is the dreamer, it to me anyway, it felt almost just like a cop out. It was too easy. It's like, okay, she woke up at the end. That's way. I need a little more. I do love the shared dream way more than it just being one dreamer. I realize Monica Bellucci asks who is the dreamer, but that could be multiple people. It could be. I mean, Bradley Mitchum has a dream. It's Bradley Mitchum. He's in there. Right. He's a dreamer.
Right.
so
totally.
I'm way more behind that, and even more so now because in the last 2 years I've consumed even more than I was consuming before. Consuming more Garmonbozio, of course, if anyone's asking what I'm consuming. A lot of cream corn over here.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of just your editing in general. Just it's great. I love just something, when you're talking about the Gordon Cole section, when you've got the side by side of Gordon Cole with the his earpiece in, and then David Lynch directing. I was like, oh my god, yeah, like this is it's one of those things you think about, because I've certainly thought about that. Him being the FBI director, him being the director of Twin Peaks. I've thought about that 1,000 times, but then you see the visuals and you're just like, oh my god, like it's just it's so good.
And I wanted people to have fun with it. Like, because the Cooper and the Laura stuff gets kind of dark or whatever, but the Lynch stuff, it's like, no, like, let's poke fun at this guy. Like,
yeah,
he's totally fine with it. And then Tyler,
I already know what you're saying.
Was that on Damn Fine? I don't want to spoil it.
It was on, you can say it. It was on, I think it was on our part 3 episode with Damn Fine TV. He makes
Tyler
reference. Yeah.
He makes a reference to Fire Walk with Me, and they're talking, and they say, David Lynch in the Fire Walk with Me, he's got a like a sunny beach picture behind his desk, and in the return, it's a nuclear bomb, and Tyler's like, yeah, what does he say? A lot has happened.
A lot has happened. in 25 years.
A lot has happened in 25 years.
A lot has happened to go from that to that, and it was because I've never even thought about his office or anything like that. So that was just really, really funny. And just, of course he made that connection. Tyler's paying attention. Don't let him lead you astray. He's no, it's great. But
yeah, I don't really know what else there is to say about it. I mean, I guess my only thing is just, I try to get across that like as broad as possible, but keep everything tight. Like, hey, maybe the characters are dreamers, but we're all the dreamer too. But I did hone in on I don't think this came across as like solid as I wanted it to, but when Monica, right after the return, it's like, oh, we're like the dreamer who dreams and lives inside the dream, but who is the dreamer? And everybody would say, well, we're the dreamer. And I'm like, yeah, but the phrase is, we are like the dreamer.
Correct.
We're not the dreamer, according to the first half of the sentence. So she's talking about someone specifically. So my whole theory from the get-go was, because of Lynch's like the unified field or the collective unconscious or just whatever you want to call it, existential nature of it is the whole. We are all joined together, but we experience we experience everything subjectively, right? Like we're all the same matter, we're all the same energy, we're all part of the same universe, but we all experiencing it. We are experiencing it subjectively. So the answer is I am the dreamer, not non-exclusive. It's like we are like I. And I am like we, if you want to look at it in the existential way. And that's
sure.
But that's not really a video. That's just kind of an interesting point. So that's why it's kind of at the beginning and the end. And in the middle, like I want to have fun with it. It's like, oh, hey, maybe Cooper's a bad guy, or oh, hey, Laura Palmer's scream, or like have fun with it. But I'm trying to show that characters in the show are like us as people as well, looking through like the existential lens, so to speak.
Oh, I love that.
So
going back to just kind of with your editing style and with like, when you're thinking about those shots of having a Gordon Cole and David Lynch side by side, or even just having I loved the graphic you made with like the circle into the 8, and the 8 and all that stuff. Like, do you think of that stuff when you're writing like your script? Are you thinking about these shots, like kind of what they're going to look like when you start editing? I assume you do, but I'm curious if like, or does some of that come up as you're editing, as you go along?
It's a bit of both. So the Barra household. So I was just interviewed by, this is Twin Peaks Grammar. So I was just interviewed by
I saw that. Yeah,
Twin Peaks Grammar on Twitter, and he is a teacher and wanted to know about the process of doing video essays. And I will I'm either going to upload the interview he did with me, or I'll link off to his interview with me. But at some point y'all are going to get a really good deep dive with me on the actually putting this stuff together. But he got an exclusive look at my sketchbook, which I haven't shown anybody, but
should be a Patreon exclusive.
Yeah, I know. As soon as I showed him, I was like, no, I'm joking. It was a joke. I'm glad he got to see it, but it's cool. Like I storyboard a lot of those graphics, like the Secret History book opening and this and that. And like all the graphics in my videos are all kind of like storyboarded. That infinity loop, has been in my sketchbook for like 3 years, or like a long time. But it's still a challenge because like, okay, in my mind, I'm writing the script and I'm seeing but how long do I take to say this sentence? How much screen time do I have to fill up? How many shots is that? Okay, well, so I'm definitely going to show like Sparkwood in 21. Well, actually, this should all be black and white. So maybe I'll cut for like Jeffries is the time thing. So it's like putting the shots behind the graphics, putting the shots along, like what's going to go with it. Like you have the idea, you can have the sketch, all that. Actually, I had the stuff built from my Philip Jeffries episode. If you watch my Philip Jeffries episode, I do a quick little like,
right.
And so I had kind of like circles and I had kind of the graphics already like built, but what shots am I going to use? How do I time it out? How am I going to, if I'm saying this, but showing this, like, does that actually work? Maybe I should back this up a little bit, or maybe I should rewrite. I have a sentence like, oh, this is perfect. This is exactly what I want to say. And then like literally like I'll get like to the last minute, like a week before I'm going to put it on YouTube. It's like, oh, that doesn't work, does it? Because I need to either shorten this sentence so I can get on to the next graphic, or I need to maybe expand on this idea a little bit more, because you're not going to be able to watch this graphic for 2 seconds. I need 5 seconds in here. So like, is there a line that I cut out? Because I've got like, when I'm stretched for time, like I cut lines all the time. I don't need to mention about Sparkwood in 21. I don't need to mention about this. I don't like, this isn't crucial. This isn't crucial. This isn't crucial. I just throw stuff out all the time. But sometimes in the final edit, I'm like, man, I need 3 more seconds in here. Like, oh, there was that one line I said that's totally works that I cut for time. I'll just stick that back in and that'll let the graphics breathe a little bit more. I mean, there's a lot of like that kind of stuff. But anyway,
That's awesome.
enough about me. No, I appreciate it. No, it's good. Like I said, folks, I usually go on my own channel and talk for an hour about whatever video I just made. So I'm not doing that anymore. So that's why
I wanted to shout out too the Sarah lipstick cover. Just rules. I was just oh my God, this is gorgeous. Like, it's great. So
yeah. Yeah, that's another, I want to talk about her, and she let me use the video, but she put out, so Sarah Lipstate, who goes by Noveller, who's a really good guitar player. She's played with Iggy Pop. Did you know that? You didn't know that? Yeah.
Badass.
Yeah. I was like, what? Really? But her albums are cool. I've listened to some of her stuff. It's kind of ambient, whatever. But anyway, so she's a great guitar player, creative, innovative, cool, great guitar player. And she did the theme song cover, and she did Laura's theme along with Audrey's dance as a limited edition 7-inch record. So she did it, the instrumental guitar instrumental covers, limited edition 7-inch records. You can still get them on her Bandcamp. Anyway, she put out videos to go along with these songs, and I did some graphic work for her to help promote the release. So then I said, hey, I want to use your song in my video, and it'd be kind of cool. Because again, I'm trying to break that fourth wall, sort of. In the end, it's like, hey, we're all the dreamer, right?
Right.
So I wanted to. So I got the Piney Realm footage. So awesome. I want to party with that, dude. So
okay. We need that's another Instagram, Twitter account to plug. I can't get enough. I'm so glad that he does this and posts.
Oh, dude.
All these pictures. He lives in North Bend and basically posts. It's almost like the David Lynch weather. He posts daily pictures in the town with kind of what's going on weather-wise.
Yeah,
and it's so good. It's so good.
It's really it's amazing. So I want to have him on the show, but yeah. He's pretty much saved my life during the pandemic, like being able to like see the waterfall every day, like, hey, it's snowing in Twin Peaks. I'm like, oh my God, that's beautiful. Oh. So he gave me all that good snowing footage.
It was really good.
And I was like, perfect. Like, it's still winter. I got some snowing footage. I got her, so I can cut to her video. And like, she's a real life person, like not a character in the show. Right. So I'm trying to talk about how we're the dreamer too. So that's where all that came from. So
yeah, that was great.
Yeah. So yeah, let's wrap this up. I went way over.
Sure.
And I appreciate it. Where can people find you?
People can find us on Twitter at Talking Backward, because we didn't have enough characters to put Talking Backwards, so we're Talking Backwards. And we're Talking Backwards Pod on Instagram, and then patreon.com/Talking Backwards if you want to support the show and catch video podcasts, get some cool Talking Backwards merch. All of that is there. We appreciate everyone's support. The community rules. And thank you, Mr. Ring, for the time. Really enjoyed chatting with you tonight, buddy.
Yeah, it was great, man. Anytime. TakeTheRing.com takes you to my YouTube channel. Patreon.com/TakeTheRing430. $1 a month gets you exclusive stuff. And I want to thank Cameron Cloutier, who was at the beginning of the show. Follow Annie Blackburn YouTube channel, Twin Peaks fan film, Queen of Hearts. I also want to thank Marcus, who is Pinland Empire, PinlandEmpire.com. Go check out his website. Follow him on Twitter. It's the best. Side-by-sides, film breakdowns, discussions, the podcast he's on, Zebras in America, all that stuff's gold. Okay. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.